All right, everyone. So we're going to start looking at SMMT. This was a stock that went from a close earlier this week before the move at 75 cents all the way up to a high of $4.50. And boy, this was a pretty epic move. Interestingly, I didn't trade it very well. I really generally don't like the lower price stocks. Now, I had a trade just yesterday. I'll just jump over here on AMAM. This stock goes up 978% in 3 hours, an epic short squeeze. Now, someone there were a couple comments on YouTube yesterday when I was talking about this. One said, oh, this wasn't really a short squeeze. It didn't even have high short interest. So something that's interesting about that is that short interest is always this is delayed data. So your short interest right here, this is based on like 2 weeks ago. All right, so you're right. Based on 2 weeks ago, this had very low short interest. However, yesterday, when it starts squeezing up, what inevitably happened was during this period of consolidation between $1.15 and $1.20, it trapped a lot of short traders who were looking for a fade because the stock was already up 200%. Now, it ends up that all of those short sellers get trapped and are forced to cover into this squeeze. So it's an intraday short squeeze, which clearly is very powerful. A stock doesn't move up that much without squeezing some shorts. So that's different than the GameStop, sort of a really high level of institutional short interest, but it's still a short squeeze. All right. So, and then the other comment was that, Russ, don't you have a rule about not trading stocks under $1? And I'd like to think of it more as a guideline that helps me focus on where I'll make the most money in the market. So as a general rule, as a general guideline, yes, I do avoid stocks under $1. My first trade on this one was at $1.07. On SMMT, this one, I really was not interested in it at all down in this area. On this day where it first popped up, it squeezes up to $1.50, which put it at the top of the gap scanner, so it's already up 100%. But it's on that first pre-market candle on pretty light volume. And, I just thought, nah, it's a little too cheap. It's above $1, but it's still a little too cheap. It's not really my cup of tea. I think I'm going to have to just kind of leave this one alone. So day one, we end up getting a fair amount of, a tremendous amount of volume. The total volume was 156 million shares. So there was a ton of volume on it. But realistically, it was the type of stock that you would have made good money on if you bought it, held it, and walked away. For really active day traders, there were some scalp opportunities. You've got first 5-minute candles to make a new high, some things like that. But to be honest, I didn't really feel like it was super exciting. This is just cheaper. To make decent money, you've got to buy a lot of shares. That can cost you money in terms of commissions, depending on what broker you're at. So day one, it's kind of a grinder. It definitely moves higher, but I just wasn't really all that interested in it. And you can see the MACD for the most part is, pretty much just sideways consolidation. So you get a couple spots where you get a nice squeeze, like right there. That was a nice big candle. You got a little bit more action here and there, but a couple red candles. And just generally for me, this just, it felt like a grinding stock. It definitely pulled away later in the morning or into the afternoon, which, it just kind of was holding up all day. And then next thing you know, it starts to pull away here. So right in this area, you're getting pullbacks to the moving averages. But for those that know the way I trade momentum, you could probably already tell that this is not the type of stock that I'm usually going to trade super aggressively or really crush. It's not even until actually right in this area that we get one of the cleaner patterns of the day. That one right there. That's a nice pattern. And now we're starting to get into a little bit more range. You've got a couple okay spots in here around $2, but $2.10, but it just doesn't have a ton of range. So I profit on a couple of things: volatility, range, liquidity. When we don't have one of those, it's hard for me to do super well. So it ends up hitting a high there of, 270 or something. All right, so we get a pretty impressive move. That's after hours. And let's see. Now let's look forward here to the next day. So the next day, we've got this long period of consolidation. And you know what? There was just a big seller on this thing at about $2.30, and it was not breaking. And so I heard a bunch of traders saying, all right, this is a short. off of, I'm gonna do a horizontal line. This is a short off of 230 because we've got the backstop of this big seller on the level 2. And that seller showing right there on the level 2 was, it was 16 million shares. That's a huge seller on the level 2. I mean, seriously, that is massive. So the seller's just sitting there. So shorts were getting kind of comfortable. Uh-oh. Oh no. What happened? Seller's gone. Now, this is really some interesting stuff. And this is where there's always going to be a lot of speculation about, these types of moves. Was that someone who was trying to entice a bunch of short sellers to go short on the stock, only, knowing that they were going to pull that order, or knowing that some big buyers were going to come in, and then it was going to be a combination of short covering and those new buyers coming in, because all of a sudden it ripped through that level. And a lot like the move I showed you on PHVS, this move back here, don't always see it coming. But once it breaks, I'm watching the first pullback. We had one on AM yesterday as well. So didn't really see this first move coming right there. But once we get that candle, that's when I'm starting to get interested. So for what it's worth, if you miss that first candle, and I often do, I watch the first pullback. Now on this one, I was hosting a trading summit with 6 of my students, and so we were doing some panel topics. We were live streaming, and I wasn't trading, so I did not end up trading this, but you ended up getting this nice continuation here. So it halts up, it opens a little bit lower, and then continues higher. All right, so now you're getting, and this is the problem again with these types of stocks, is that these candles here, I mean, it rips so fast into a halt. There's not a lot of time to unwind a big position, really either way, long or short, but especially short, because in these moments, there's not a lot of sellers. All of a sudden, you had that big seller and that order's gone, and now people are like, here we go, let's ride the momentum, and you have a massive imbalance to the buy side. So big imbalance to the buy side on this. It squeezes up, halts, dips, and rips, goes a little higher. And then into the close, it ends up squeezing up to 329. And it just did not give short sellers really much of a break. It did not come back down to 230. So we ended up closing pretty strong. Then after hours, pre-market the next day, we get a little bit of a pullback. And then once again, we get this very similar pattern. At the open, it's grinding higher back to 3. It does a little bit of a trap here at the open. So it pops up to 304, it flushes down, and then it curls back up and it halts up at 304. This is the time to get interested. In this case, it pulls back and is very kind of mediocre. It's like, that's weird. I thought we were gonna get a little more excitement here. It opened high and then just kind of pulled back. And then look at that, boom, it rips up to 350. Okay, so if you missed that break of about 320, so let's see. So if you missed that break right in this area of about 319, 320, then you're watching the dip and rip. Well, unfortunately, this goes straight into a second halt, which doesn't give you much time to add. You could if you're quick. Then it pulls back, it pops up, false breakout here, it drops, and then it curls back up. So I look at this and I actually don't think this one was the easiest to trade, to be honest. I think this one was a little choppy with these kind of pops and drops. The halts up and then the way it was pulling back. This was just not as easy to trade, in my opinion. It ends up hitting a high of 450, but these were like curling patterns. This was not as clean as the price action we had on PHVS or on AM. And you know what? That's the personality of the stock for whatever reason. Some are going to be a little easier and some are going to be a little bit more difficult. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4 days of price action. And, we closed after hours Friday at 382. What do you think? It still looks pretty bullish to me. Now, for all we know, there could be news over the weekend that comes out and it is opening lower on Monday. Or it may end up having good news over the weekend or on Monday and sending it to the next level. And if we break through 450, then we're looking for more continuation. Notice that the volume is declining. So as it's going higher, we have declining volume, with the lowest volume being on Friday, which was an inside candle. It made neither a new high nor a new low. So getting into a little bit of, maybe easing off the momentum based on volume alone. We certainly are. Based on rate of change, we certainly are. So liquidity and volatility both were down on Friday. I don't know if they're going to come back in Monday without some type of fresh catalyst. I don't know that it would, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. So I hope this has also been helpful for those of you guys that wanted to check this out. I did a review of a couple other stocks that were big this week, PHVS and AMAM. So you can check out those episodes. Hope you have a great weekend. I'll see you back here first thing on Monday morning. I'll be streaming my morning show on YouTube right around 9 a.m. And reminder, as always, trading is risky. My results aren't typical, and there's no guarantee you'll find success whether you trade on your own or you learn from me. So make sure you take it slow and practice in a simulator before you put real money on the line. Enjoy the weekend. I'll see you on Monday.